So Meatloaf passed away today. 74 years old. It's reported he contracted coronavirus, became seriously ill, canceled one of his business dinners, and died. And what we know of the meat was out there rallying against vaccine mandates, was out there promoting, the Eric Clapton song, on the Van Morrison song, the anti-lockdown song. We know on that front, not sure if he was vaccinated or not. I'm kind of thinking probably not. But the reality is 2 out of 3, I guess that's what got him. And I guess there are some things, well, I guess he'd do anything for love, but possibly get vaccinated. And I don't want to make a joke of it. It's sad. But, here you go. Maybe this will wake somebody up. Maybe it's a cautionary tale. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the latest news on the vaccines. Thanks to Texas. I've asked our good friend Laura Packard to come talk with us and give us some thoughts on what's going on down there. Laura's a stage 4 cancer survivor and the executive director of Healthcare Voter. Laura, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you think of the meat? I like his music. I'm not fond of the stuff recently, and sad to see him go. But I guess choices, right?
Well, I think it's sad that he thought that it was better to go without this vaccine, and now he's no longer here, and his family has to go on without him when a simple, free vaccine could possibly have saved his life.
And this is one of those things where I know there are probably people out there who listened to the Van Morrison, Eric Clapton song and have looked to him in these anti vaccine rallies and all of this stuff and go, oh no, if he's not doing it, I shouldn't. This is where I struggle with, I want to feel bad for him and his family. I want to feel bad, but there's part of me that goes, maybe this is a message. Maybe this is something that someone go, oh, wait, it could happen to him. Could probably happen to me too. I don't know. I'm just in that weird spot.
Well, this brown-eyed girl believes in vaccines, and I hope that the audiences out there will pay attention and realize that anybody can get sick, and if you're not protected, it could go very badly for you.
Yeah. Now, we're in this moment, Laura, and as you know as well as anyone, our Supreme Court shot down Joe Biden's vaccine mandate, which I truly believed from the beginning was going to happen anyway. My concern now is that the president and a lot of people go, you know what? Hey, our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do. And states across this country, Republican legislatures have done everything they can do to hamstring anyone from reacting, and that the rest of us are just going to have to, figure out how to get through it.
Well, the Supreme Court struck down the Biden administration's mandate for large businesses that their employees would have to either be vaccinated or get weekly tests. And just today, courts put a hold on the ruling that all federal employees would have to be vaccinated. So we're seeing some of the same elected officials that fought against the Affordable Care Act are now fighting against vaccines and mandates, the very things we need to get out of this pandemic.
It seems kind of weird. I mean, you're fighting against people getting health care and then against them being able to protect them. It seems like the death cult is, that frame of, the GOP being a death cult seems to actually kind of be, yeah.
Many Republicans do not care about your health.
That's the bumper sticker right there, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, but now we find out, and this is where I've been a little critical of the administration. They're now putting out free tests. There's going to be some masks coming out. There's going to be all of this stuff. And I talked about it earlier. Of course, now that my wife goes and buys a whole bunch of N95 masks and pays a fortune for them, the administration, now we're going to give some free out. And that's good. We need them. But shouldn't this have been something that was done, I don't know, months ago?
Frankly, yes. They in most other countries, tests are easy to come by and they're cheap or free, and masks are provided. And it took getting to this place to finally be able to get tests delivered, and masks will be high quality masks, KN95s and N95s, will be more available from the administration. But again, they're going to be distributed through pharmacies and community centers, that kind of thing. So that means a lot of people that are homebound, people with disabilities, people with medical conditions, may not be able to go out and get them. So I hope that where we wind up is that people can order those masks online, just like you can order the tests.
Well, aren't they being sent also through the postal service? I mean, I had a relative recently who sent me a text saying, "Hey, have you gotten your masks?" And she gave me a postal service email address. I think it's special.usps.com, where you can go get the testing kits through, and they'll send them through the post office and make sure you get them. And couldn't they use do the masks that way as well?
I hope so, because they already have the infrastructure in place to deliver the tests. I wish that they could have delivered masks with the tests, but that ship has sailed.
See, there you go, thinking again. But here's the thing: why aren't we doing that? I mean, why is it that it seems like, we're not being as proactive as we're talking a good game, but we're not getting this stuff out the door, saying, look. Like I saw a thing. Oh, you can only get 4 of them. Okay, well, yeah, I get that. But how about next week? How about the week after? How about down the road? And look, I think we need to have a commission that if anyone goes and tries to resell these, they should be going to jail. I think we need to have these things in place already months ago. That when this stuff happens, it's all in place. Or do you think that the administration, as I believe, put too much faith in the American people that they would get vaccinated, that they would come around to the reality that people like Meatloaf are going by the wayside because maybe they didn't get vaccinated? Isn't this kind of, do you think that's possibly it?
Well, I think the administration did think that vaccines were going to take care of everything. And maybe they could have if months ago everybody had gotten vaccinated, but the vaccines were slow to roll out, slow for everybody to get them. And then there was this sizable amount of misinformation and various media outlets that are pushing this misinformation, and of course social media too, that wound up with a quarter to a third of this country doesn't believe in vaccines and or masks. And so we've gotten to the point where we're never going to get to the easy way out of this pandemic, and so we're just trying to get through it the best we can.
Some days I just don't know. But back to the Texas court deciding the federal mandate to put a freeze on this. Is it possible that they can? Is it possible they can stop the federal mandate? I mean, didn't already the Supreme Court rule that Biden had the ability to do this on the federal level? How can this lower court decide that?
Well, there's multiple different court cases, and so it gets confusing. So the Supreme Court ruled on 2 issues. They said that the government can't force large employers to make sure their employees either get tested or vaccinated. And they ruled that the government can make sure that every medical facility that takes federal dollars can mandate that their employees get vaccinated. But this is the 3rd issue. This is all federal employees, so not necessarily healthcare workers, but all federal employees. Can the government insist as a condition of employment that you be vaccinated or not? And it seems pretty clear to me that the government should be able to insist that its employees, follow basic health protocols. But this rogue court put down the injunction, and so we'll see what higher courts have to say about it.
Yeah, do we have a sense of where the Supreme Court will go based on its past rulings? Any sense on where this may go on the federal level?
I mean, it feels like a very corporate friendly court would agree that employers can mandate their employees do things, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. No, you hit it on the head, because a lot of people say, oh, it's a conservative court, it's a Trump court. No, this is a corporate court. First and foremost, this is about corporate America and money, and then everything else aside. And while we're talking about the Supreme Court, they came out with the allowing the Texas the law to stay in place, which I was kind of hoping, as extreme as that Texas law is, that they would have pushed back on how crazy that is, but not so much.
This also is news that they did not stop the the new Texas law on abortion from going into effect that turns average Texans into bounty hunters, where they can turn in their neighbors. So the courts are moving on this. The Supreme Court hasn't ruled one way or another on the merits. They just failed to stop it from going into effect. So right now it's kicking around in the courts. I believe next it's going to the Texas Supreme Court and then on from there. So there was a way that they could have fast tracked this, to rule sooner, but instead they're just letting it play out. And that means that hundreds of thousands of Texans cannot get an abortion if they need one.
And see, the problem is that they haven't stepped in this moment. So even if down the road they do, which I doubt they're going to overturn, maybe the part of the weird parts of it, but the 6-week ban, I don't know. I think that they're ready to do away with Roe entirely. But the longer this takes, the more people who are going to be harmed in the process. And that's a problem. Look, I'm not someone who's in favor of abortions. I'm not someone who's out cheerleading them. I'm not pro or anti. Where I am is I'm pro safety. I want my daughters to be safe. I don't want them to have to grow up in the world that their grandmother grew up in, where people were going into back alleys and doing all kinds of things, when the reality is rich women are going to get the care that they need, and it's going to be poor and working class women who are going to be the ones who are going to end up being harmed by this. So the longer this takes, the worse things are. So I find this to be another moment where the Supreme Court has fallen down on the job.
Mm-hmm. And also, speaking of Texas legislators, if they truly cared about working class women in Texas, they would have expanded Medicaid already, because that's hundreds of thousands of Texans that can't afford health insurance right now and can't get it either. And that's because of the negligence of the Texas legislature.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're with Laura Packard. Laura's a stage 4 cancer survivor, also the executive director of Healthcare Voter. Also, you do a TV show, right? Health Talk, right?
Care Talk on Mondays at 4 o'clock Eastern.
There you go. And that's on ACT TV. And we will get links out on how you can take a look at Care Talk and the work that Laura does there. I want to also get your thoughts, lastly, on the Build Back Better stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there that I think helpful to poor and working class folks. Sadly, doesn't look like it's going to happen. But Joe Manchin said, I guess it was yesterday, we're back to square one. Everything's off the table. We got a blank sheet of paper. All of that arguing over the math, over is it six trillion, or is it 3.5 trillion, or 2 trillion, or 1, or 14, or 37, or who knows what. We're now back to zero, blank sheet of paper.
Yes. So, realistically, we live in a world where we can only get what Manchin and Cinema will sign off on. And so they need to be clear about what they will and won't support. And, it's common sense things that we all need, like being able to lower the cost of prescription drugs, being able to lower the cost of health insurance, get millions of Americans health care that can't get it right now, like those people in Texas, for example. So paid family and medical leave, especially during a pandemic. It's a long list of things that were in the original bill, and we'll see what survives. But everything in that bill was important and needed, and will be a loss if we don't have it.
Yeah, most certainly. And the thing that bothers me is, you look at the voting rights bills that Joe Manchin wrote. He wrote the bill. They said, Joe, go write the bill. And Joe wrote the bill. And ultimately, he didn't vote for it. Now you go, oh, well, he voted for the bill, but he voted for no way for it to actually become law. So my fear in this is Joe goes and he writes a horrible bill, and then at the end still doesn't support it. I mean, that's the weird world in which we live. Crazy.
Yeah. But if they do this through reconciliation, then they only need 50 votes. But that's why if they break it up into pieces and they don't do through this through reconciliation, we're back to where we were with voting rights, where it rams right into the filibuster and the boat sinks.
I mean, it's insane to me. I mean, it really is insane to me that you got this one moment, Joe. You got this one moment, and you have fallen down. And look, I think it could cost the Democrats mightily in the next year, especially if they don't get something done on voting rights. Or, on this Build Back Better plan, if you're not making people's lives better, if you're not getting things done, they're either not gonna show up to the polls or they're gonna throw you out, and it seems that simple. So for me, something on the voting rights has to happen, and then something on this front has to happen as well. But sadly, I don't see the money to help childhood poverty. I don't see a lot of the things that need to get done on climate change getting done, all because, well, one guy from West Virginia.
Well, they were elected to help people, not to help procedure.
There you go.
And so they're choosing to defend this arcane rule that isn't even dating to the founding of the republic or anything like that. So they're choosing to die on the hill of paperwork, of footnotes, instead of doing what they were elected by the people of West Virginia and elsewhere to do, and that's to make America better.
That is absolutely it. Laura, I appreciate the time as always. Great talking with you. Keep up the great work that you do. And Care Talk Mondays, 4 p.m. Eastern on ACT TV. We'll get links out on how you can take a look at that. Laura, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Our good friend Laura Packard. Make sure you check out her show, Care Talk. ACT TV, 4 p.m. We'll get links out. Quick, Jenna from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, who sent me an email listening on KTNF AM 950. Said, Rick, loved the show, but too late. I need your energy on the way to work, not on the way home. Do you put out a podcast? And I said, yes. She said, where? I said, everywhere. She said, love you, brother, lifelong UFCW member. Yeah, you can get the podcast anywhere. Take the program on the go, wherever you go. It's always there, always available to be turned on or turned off, preferably on. But go to the ricksmithshow.com, and that's where you can find all the places where we put our podcast, and I'm sure one of them is your favorite. Again, if you missed any of our program, the podcast, best place to get it. TheRickSmithShow.com is where you go. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Make sure you follow us on social media at Rick Smith Show. Also on Twitter, they're at Rick Smith Show. Facebook, YouTube, like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.